There comes a moment when you've tried everything: hustling, planning, affirmations, even visualization, and still nothing shifts. You ask the sky, why isn't it working? The truth is, the universe answers open hands, not clenched fists. When you push and force, your own energy screams, I'm not enough, and life simply echoes that back. Deep down, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. If your identity is built on chasing and fixing, your life just mirrors that emptiness. So here's the radical move. Stop. Stop proving. Stop pushing. Stop chasing. This isn't surrender and weakness, it's surrender and wisdom. In the space created by doing nothing, the unconscious finally has a voice. The shadow begins to soften and reality starts to realign on its own. When you cease the frantic doing, you allow your true self to emerge. Your deepest wounds, once hidden behind noise and action, can be seen and healed. Your energy shifts from desperation to presence, and in that shift, the world responds. Let your breath slow and your mind quiet. Notice how, in stillness, old anxieties lose their grip. You've spent so long running, from discomfort, from fear, from the stinging echo of unhealed wounds, that you forgot what it felt like simply to be. In that being, the psyche begins its work. Shadows come forward to be welcomed, not banished. Creativity stirs, unblocked by frenetic striving. Intuition whispers truths that logic cannot reach. This is the beginning of genuine transformation. Not because you found a newer, shinier tool or technique, but because you reclaimed the space in which your own wisdom can speak. Carl Jung taught that until the unconscious is made conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. By doing nothing, by refusing to chase, you draw your unconscious into the light. Feel into any resistance that arises now. Perhaps you feel guilty for wasting time, or anxious that if you pause you'll miss your window, or restless at the blankness. That resistance is your ego's last stand, its desperate bid to stay in control. Yet every moment you choose surrender rather than struggle, you strengthen your soul's sovereignty. You prove to yourself that you are more than your impulses, your fears, your stories. And here's the paradox. In that surrender, power returns. You're no longer scattered in 1,000 directions. Your energy, once leaking through every reaction, becomes contained in your presence. You begin to magnetize the very outcomes you once pursued: relationships, clarity, abundance, because you're no longer driven by lack, but by wholeness. Allow yourself to rest here, in this fertile pause. Trust that the very thing you've been pushing so hard to create is already finding its way to you, guided by the new, quieter energy you've cultivated. When you finally move again, it will be with the authority of someone who doesn't need to chase, and life will meet you halfway. Now, notice how the world around you feels different when your inner world is no longer frantic. You aren't reacting to every ping of your phone, every social media alert, every passing thought. Instead, you're choosing which thoughts to engage, which opportunities to pursue, and which narratives to let fade away. This is the practice of conscious selection. When a thought of, I must do more, arises, you greet it gently. Thank you, I see you. And then return to your center. When a worry about the future whispers, you place it on a shelf and turn your attention back to the present breath. Over time, these small acts of refusal accumulate into a profound capacity, the freedom to choose your next move from wholeness rather than from fear. Imagine the impact of that on your relationships, your work, your creativity. Without the compulsion to prove yourself, conversations become genuine exchanges of insight. Without the need to perform, your ideas breathe and evolve naturally. Without the hunger for external validation, your purpose emerges from within, guiding you toward projects and people aligned with your deepest values. Carl Jung believed that each of us carries a hidden genius, a seed of individuation waiting to blossom. But that seed cannot germinate in soil choked by distraction and self-judgment. It needs the quiet rain of self-acceptance, the sunlight of compassionate attention. By doing nothing, by simply holding space for yourself, you water that seed, and as you cultivate that inner calm, you'll find new clarity. What truly matters rises to the surface, while the trivial concerns drift away like leaves on a stream. In that clarity lies your next step. Not frantic, not forced, but born of spontaneous insight and aligned energy. The path forward becomes not a checklist to complete, but a living unfolding of your own emergence. As you rest into this newfound stillness, you begin to notice the subtle currents that have guided your life all along. Those recurring patterns of thought, the old fears that have colored every decision, the unmet needs that have driven you to distraction. Doing nothing doesn't mean ignoring these currents. It means allowing them to surface without immediately reacting. Picture yourself seated by a calm lake. Every ripple on its surface reflects something from your interior world. Rather than casting stones to flatten the water, you lean forward and simply observe. Ah, there's the fear of rejection again. Oh, here's the old story of not being enough. You name each wave, and because naming diminishes its power, the ripples gradually subside into glassy stillness. In that clarity, a deeper wisdom stirs. You realize that every compulsion was once a signal, an invitation to attend to some part of your soul that felt neglected. The urge to hustle, to prove yourself was, at its core, a cry for belonging. We all want to know we matter. But when the lake is calm, you see that mattering is not earned by busyness. It is rooted in inherent being. So the next time you feel that old drive to check your email, to push a little harder, to chase the next result, pause again, breathe in and say quietly, "Not yet." Give your soul the chance to speak. What am I really seeking in this moment? More often than not, you'll discover that beneath the surface longing lies something simple yet profound. A wish to feel at home in your own skin. And in honoring that wish, by staying present, by refusing to be hijacked, you reclaim your creative power. Projects begin to flow effortlessly, not because you forced their completion, but because you aligned with the deeper impulse that inspired them. Relationships deepen, not through relentless effort, but through genuine presence and attention. Your life ceases to be a string of tasks to accomplish, and instead becomes a dance of emergence, a continual unfolding of your truest self. Carl Jung taught that the goal of life is individuation, becoming the unique person you were born to be. Remarkably, this process is not accelerated by frantic doing, but by the courageous willingness to be still and listen. In that silence, the psyche speaks in its native language. Symbols, dreams, quiet urgings. If you learn to do nothing long enough to hear them, those messages become the blueprint for your authentic path. So let your next act of mastery be simply this. Surrender the frantic grasping, step out of the performance zone, and rest fully in your own attention. Watch how, almost magically, the world begins to shift around you. Opportunities arrive, relationships realign, and you discover that the power you've been chasing was within you all along. The power of conscious being. As you settle into this rhythm of receptive awareness, you begin to notice one more truth. Life doesn't unfold in straight lines, but in spirals. Moments of stillness open a door, then action naturally flows, then rest returns, then deeper insight arises. This alternation of pause and movement isn't a flaw in your journey. It's its very essence. Imagine a great tree. First, its roots grow silently in the soil, then the trunk rises, then branches stretch outward, then leaves unfurl in the sun. There is no rushing its cycle. Likewise, your true work alternates between underground integration and above-ground expression. When you fight the pause, you stunt your growth. When you embrace it, your next burst of creativity carries the strength of fully nourished roots. Notice too how your relationships respond. People who once pulled you into endless agendas begin to mirror your calm, because presence has a gravitational field. When you stop performing, others let down their masks. Conversations become more honest, not because you demand truth, but because your very stillness invites it. You become a safe harbor where authenticity can finally dock. And the world itself, your work, your art, your purpose, starts to reflect this deeper alignment. Tasks you once approached with anxiety now carry an undercurrent of ease. You no longer make time because time ceases to feel like an enemy to conquer. Instead, you enter what the mystics call the flow, a state where doing and being are perfectly intertwined, and results arise as the natural fruit of your centered attention. This is not a fantasy. It's the lived experience of countless people across traditions, monks, poets, scientists, and entrepreneurs, who discovered that greatness is not born of frantic effort, but of profound self-knowing. They understood that less can actually be more, not as a clever paradox, but as an embodied reality, less and more clarity, less doing, more being, less striving, more arriving. So let your commitment be this. Whenever you catch yourself clenching in fear or chasing a next win, gently pause. Breathe. Return to your center. Feel the vast spaciousness that lies beneath the turbulence of the mind. From this place, you will act with wisdom rather than urgency, lead with presence rather than pressure, and create from wholeness rather than wound. In doing nothing, you are doing everything that matters. You are clearing the field for your deepest vision to land. You are offering your soul the space it needs to speak. And when it does, you no longer have to wonder, why isn't it working? Because you, in perfect alignment, will already know exactly how it's meant to unfold. And so the invitation stands before you, simple yet profound. Stop, breathe, and be. Allow the currents of life to move through the stillness you've cultivated. Watch as opportunities arrive without frantic pursuit. Notice how your presence, no matter how quiet, becomes unmistakable. Feel the alchemy of inner freedom transforming every corner of your world. This is the art of true mastery. Not in forcing outcomes, but in becoming the fertile ground from which all good things naturally spring. If this resonance has stirred something within you, let it ripple outward. Share your experience below. What stillness has revealed in your own life? And if you're ready to deepen this work, subscribe and explore the resources linked in the description, where guided reflections and practices await to support your journey. Remember Jung's words, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. In the end, the greatest awakening is simply coming home to yourself. Be still and watch how everything falls into place.